Pacific Ocean by 4 large barrier sand islands, Moreton Bay contains an extensive area of tidal wetlands, consisting of intertidal sand and mud flats, seagrass beds, mangrove forests, salt flats and salt marshes. This extensive intertidal area supports a diverse range of rare, vulnerable and endangered species, including 42 species of shorebirds. Up to 50,000 individual shorebirds migrate here every year. So, what is a shorebird?
Shorebirds are a group of birds that live along the coastline. They have long legs and pointy wings and long bills, adaptations to feeding in the mudflats around here and also for a very highly migratory lifestyle. Overall, they comprise about 10% of the total number of species found in Australia, so they're a very significant component of our avifauna. Not all birds that feed on the shorelines are classified as being shorebirds, and their closest relatives are birds like gulls and terns.
While it's easy to spot gulls and terns in the bay, migratory shorebirds are a lot more timid and harder to see in their environment. In fact, most people don't even know they're there until they frighten them into flying away. The East Asian Australasian flyway is the outline of the many paths that migratory shorebirds take on their journey. The majority of migratory shorebirds that use Moreton Bay travel here from breeding sites in the Northern Hemisphere. This path has been recognised internationally as one of the world's most important flyways. Many staging points for shorebirds along the East Asian Australasian flyway are being threatened by human development. Our flyway is the most human-populated flyway with the fastest economically developing countries in the world. The rapid rate of industrialisation has meant the erasure of many wetlands along the flyway by pollution, excess sediments and nutrients in the catchments, or by building over them. Without healthy feeding and roosting sites and the peace to use them in, shorebirds are unable to rest and eat. These healthy stopovers with productive wetlands and roosting sites can mean the difference between life and death. So, what exactly are wetlands?
Wetlands are places where the water meets the earth. Like, for example, lakes, swamps, estuaries, mangrove forests, seagrass beds, reefs and salt marshes.
Wetlands are so important to life that in 1971 in the Iranian city of Ramsar, representatives of 18 nations, including Australia, signed the Convention on Wetlands of International Importance to stop the loss of wetlands across the world and conserve and manage remaining wetlands. The Moreton Bay Ramsar site, listed in 1993, covers over 113,000 hectares and includes large sections of the bay and surrounding barrier sand islands. In addition to Ramsar, Australia has increased protection of shorebirds by signing migratory bird agreements with flyway partners. They protect birds from disturbance and hunting, and also preserve their breeding, feeding and resting sites from reduction and destruction. You may not be able to see it from the shore, but under the intertidal waters, the wetlands of Moreton Bay support an ecosystem rich in marine worms, molluscs and crustaceans that burrow or crawl along the surface. An excellent feeding ground for shorebirds. These bar-tailed godwits will sometimes submerge their bills all the way up to their face in the water when probing for prey. Their sharp bills and long legs allow them to be very successful feeders.
Small birds like the redneck stinks come running across the sandbanks around this area. They use their beaks to dig down into the sand and peck at some amphipods that they eat.
The redneck stint, which breeds mainly in far northern Russia and Siberia, is the smallest shorebird to visit Australia. While it weighs about as much as this chocolate bar, which is only 25 grams, it undertakes one of nature's most incredible journeys, a flight of over 12,000 kilometres, stopping briefly at staging points along the flyway. In a lifetime, its tiny body will carry it over 400,000 kilometres, which, believe it or not, is further than the distance from Earth to the Moon.
They will lose nearly half of their body weight through migration. So you can imagine that by the time they reach here, they're pretty starved. Birds are driven by the tide cycles, not by day and night. At high tide, they will move off their low tide feeding grounds, and they'll congregate in sites like here to rest for about 3 or 4 hours.
As the Australian winter nears, migratory shorebirds rapidly store reserves of fat as their internal cues prompt them to get ready to travel back to their breeding grounds in the Arctic. So, how do we find out which birds travel to what countries, and how do we find out the number of shorebirds in Moreton Bay over the summer?
The Queensland Way to Study group has a count program. A whole lot of people will go to different sites around Moreton Bay and also different places along the Queensland coast. And we try and do a simultaneous count of all the shorebirds.
As part of ensuring that shorebirds have a safe place to rest in Moreton Bay, a number of artificial roosts have been constructed. These constructed sites complement the natural roosting areas in the region. The largest of the artificial roosts has been developed by the Port of Brisbane. The constructed roost will provide a permanent roosting site for the future.
We've developed a shorebird management plan that guides the management of both the constructed bird roost and other shorebird roosting areas around the port. As part of that management plan, we undertake monthly shorebird counts in conjunction with the Queensland Way to Study group, and the data that we collect guides some of our management of shorebirds at the port here, and we also make that data available for other shorebird management agencies, both locally, nationally and internationally.
It is essential that we in the international community who live along their flyway all work together. Brisbane City Council and Narashino Council have been involved in a wetlands affiliation agreement for the past 10 years. This agreement concentrates on research, conservation, education and community awareness.
As Queenslanders, we love our beaches and wetlands. Swimming, sunbaking, canoeing, bike riding and fishing are only some of the activities we love to do in the same areas that shorebirds depend upon. Humans, dogs, vehicles and vessels can disturb the shorebirds, causing them to take flight and waste precious energy reserves.
Disturbing shorebirds is an offence anywhere in Moreton Bay Marine Park. Sandbars still exposed at high tide, like this one, can provide prime habitat for shorebirds. So if you're out boating or fishing, driving on the beach or simply going for a stroll along the foreshore, keep a lookout and give the birds a wide berth.
When visiting these magnificent shorelines, these mudflats and sandflats, it's very important to keep your dog leashed. We don't want them chasing the birds. Admire these magnificent birds from a distance.
When enjoying the beaches and wetlands throughout Moreton Bay, it's important to remember that we are sharing these areas with other animals who depend on the shores to survive. We are incredibly lucky to live in such a diverse, temperate and unique city so close to internationally recognised areas. These natural sites are home to so much life and unspoilt beauty, and they need our protection because once they're gone for good. So we can act now to preserve the biodiversity of our bays and city that provide the habitats for our shorebirds.